Hello, Bill.
Mark, well, it's just gone past 12 o'clock and this is our second podcast today.
It is, and we've just been the guests on our own podcast, which is a little unnerving, I must admit.
Yeah, that'll be up, or by the time this one goes up, it will already been posted.
It will.
But we're talking about, and we're in the old Geelong council chambers.
Yep, the old town hall, which I think they still hold the council meetings here, but all the folk have moved across the road to the new building. So,
and we're sitting here. Well, I went, as podcast listeners know, I go rowing in the mornings, and I rowed this morning with my Geelong Cats beanie on, right? Just to look forward to the football season, the end of the football season.
So who's today's guest, Bill?
Well, I'm pretty excited about today's guest, Mark, because it is Christine Crowder. And Christine, I know, I won't preempt anything, but she has a very varied journey through life and business. And when you hear Christine talk, you will understand that she wasn't born here. So, Christine, welcome, and it's great to have you. You're actually sitting in Tasmania, aren't you?
I am in Tasmania.
Yeah. So, welcome, and Mark will kick off our session.
And a lovely part of the world, Christine. I envy you down there. It's a good spot.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
So let's start the journey. Where were you born, or where did you go to primary school?
So I'm originally from California in the States.
Yep.
And went to primary school in San Clemente, California.
Oh, a good part of the world.
Yes, very pretty.
And high school?
Just a little bit further up the coast in Dana Point.
and then to college?
Yeah, and then a little bit further north up to Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay. Again, nice place. So when you were at college, where did you think you wanted to go? What was your dreams, aspirations, job? Where did you think?
Well, I had a very pragmatic view, and I knew that I wanted to be able to after university. And so I wanted to focus on business of somehow. And then while I was enrolled, it became quite obvious that the students that were approached the most in that area of study in business were the accountants. So I decided to get, actually at the UC Santa Barbara, they don't have an accounting degree per se. So you major in business economics with an emphasis in accounting. So that's what I did.
And whilst you're at, I'll go back a bit. What was your first ever job? And probably you had job when you were a student. You probably had different things to do. What was the first ever job you had?
Well, my family had a machine shop, so obviously started very early, making a few bucks, helping around the shop. But as far as a formal employer, I worked at Baskin-Robbins when I was in high school, and that was such a fun job. I don't know if they have Baskin-Robbins here.
Yes, they do.
They do. And it's interesting the number of people that started their lives working in retail or hospitality and have gone on to varied and important careers. It's interesting, isn't it? And Baskin-Robbins must be another one. Do they provide good training?
I'm sure it depends on the owner, but we had a very disciplined owner, and she gave great training. But it's a happy job. When I always tell people why I like that so much, they walk in the door, they're happy to see you.
Yes.
Versus when I became an auditor, they were less happy to see me walk through the door. But it was a great way to start.
Oh, that's fantastic.
They used to go in there, obviously, to enjoy their ice cream, I guess.
Absolutely.
And that puts a smile on everybody's face, wasn't it? So
Absolutely.
When you finished your university training, what happened straight after that? Where did you go?
So I was recruited by Deloitte. Well, at the time it was Touche Ross. But I went to work for the firm in Orange County. And I stayed there for 6 years in the audit department.
So you went straight into auditing?
Correct.
So tell me about auditing stories then, without naming names. What were some of the things you discovered or in your early days that have set you up?
Well, the thing, when you're at that tier of companies, they pretty much have their act together. So you really don't uncover a lot of anything substantial. Because, to hire one of the big firms, you have to, follow compliance and all that sort of thing. But I think what was more important as the breadth of exposure you have early on, straight out of university, you're digging into the guts of successful companies like Toshiba.
Yep.
And Coldwell Banker. They don't have that here, but some really major businesses. And so you get a sense very quickly of how things should be running, so that when you do go out into private industry, you have that as your benchmark. When people have smaller organizations, that everything's a little bit more ad hoc. So it gives you that sense of how things should be structured, what kind of reporting, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, it's interesting. We just had a conversation in our previous podcast, and I was relating back to my own business, which started in my 20s. Then when I went and worked for multinationals, I saw the difference in the disciplines and the financial controls that were in place. Now,
Correct.
So you're at Deloitte's then for a while. Where to next?
So then we moved up to the Seattle, Washington area, and I took a job with Wells Fargo. And at that time, it was First Interstate Bank. And so I worked in the internal audit department, working in the fiduciary activities like corporate trust, employment trust, and personal trust, as well as the investment activities. And I had a really great mentor there. So again, it's a little bit dry, that kind of work, but very disciplined. And it provided a really good structure for understanding how compliance works and all that.
A good company to work for?
It was, yeah, it was.
Are they still in existence? Well, they have a few.
Well, they were acquired by Wells Fargo while I was there.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So I went through all of that. So yeah, it was a great experience.
And what was it like living near Seattle, around that area?
It was very wet.
Sounds like here.
It was really beautiful. Obviously very different than Southern California, not as sunny. But we really enjoyed it. We were there for 10 years. And I didn't work at Wells Fargo the whole time, but I did have the opportunity to be there during the whole internet bubble, the first one, internet bubble, which was great exposure as well.
Yeah, we'll just jump forward and then jump backwards because.
Okay.
So from Seattle to Tasmania, that's a
no.
No, I mean that's the end result. That's the length of the journey.
Okay.
So let's talk a bit about the journey. So what you did after you left Seattle, and then get to the point of what was the tipping point, as we say, or the sliding door moment that brought you out here?
While I was still in Seattle, I did take my first CFO role. Was at the company for a few years, but really wanted to branch out. Because I had worked with Deloitte, and even in Wells Fargo, you're exposed to a lot of different businesses at the same time. I really wanted to get back to that and to have some control over my destiny. So after I left my CFO role is when I started the first contract CFO business, and worked for a lot of really great companies in Seattle, in a wide variety of industries. But we were living there at 9/11, and that really shook people up a bit and made you sort of reassess, what do you want to do the rest of your life? So in 2002, we moved to Hawaii, and I was able to do a lot of my work there. But also while I was there, I had an opportunity arise from a previous colleague from Deloitte for another CFO role in Honolulu. So I took that. That was for a real estate developer. We really liked living in Hawaii, met some of our best friends there, had really good experiences. But, it wasn't the place to live long term. Vacationing there and living there are two different things.
Yeah, okay.
So, we were thinking, what's next? And at the time, we had heard that New Zealand was short on people in my profession.
Yep.
And we had known people that had spent a lot of time there and raved about it. And we thought, why not? Let's go check it out. And we did really like it. And so we thought, well, here we go again. let's take the leap. And so we moved to New Zealand. And I was able to move to a regional area of New Zealand simply because there was a role available there that had been open for a year.
Oh, wow.
And so it made immigrating there a lot easier. I mean, we still had to go through all the antics of, of immigration and background checks and all that, but it still sort of greased the wheels to get there.
And had you holidayed in New Zealand before you took a job there, or
yes,
did you just
absolutely.
Oh, you had? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, we did. And again, met some really lovely people there. Just a beautiful country. But again, you could fit the whole population of New Zealand in Melbourne.
Well, the saying, there's more sheep in New Zealand than people. So
there's a lot of sayings.
That's right.
But yeah, so we thought, it's just a little too quiet for us at that stage in life. And, we'd been over to Australia and we had gotten our citizenship in New Zealand. And so that made coming over here a lot easier. So yeah, we made the leap and landed in Victoria.
So that's interesting because to get New Zealand citizenship, you have to renounce your USA citizenship.
No, you don't.
You don't. You're allowed dual citizenship, are you?
Correct. Yes.
Ah, well, that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought you'd have to renounce it. Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
So first place in Australia, where was that?
That was in Geelong.
Oh, right. Well, that makes sense. That's where I met you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what was your role here then? What brought you to Geelong?
Same. So I just, hit the ground running. I can still remember my first chamber meeting. I think it was, it was at Cotton On. It was one of the after 5 meetings. But just, I did have clients in New Zealand that I was able to bring with me remotely. So that kept me busy for a while, but also just started networking. And, as you mentioned, Philippa, she got me in the door at Barwin Southwest. So I just continued doing this type of contract CFO work.
So going back then, when did you form your own business as such as the contract CFO? Where did that start?
So that started in Seattle.
Okay. And what caused you to do it that way rather than go and work for somebody as an employee?
This is going to sound really strange, but I remember, the thing to know about most of the businesses in the States have a December 31st year end.
Yep.
And so, it's quite busy that time of year. And one of my favorite holidays is Christmas. I just remember always being so stressed out with work when I wanted to do all this family activity and all this, all the festivities. I thought, what, this is not right. And that's why I said I really wanted to have a little bit more control over my destiny and how I worked, where I worked, the companies and the type. And so that's what got me thinking about doing that. And the funny thing is with accounting is it's not one of those professions that, it's easy to become part of the background.
Yep.
If you're doing everything right, you're just sort of taken for granted. You only catch people's attention when something goes wrong.
Yep.
But when you do the consulting work and contract work, there's more of a sense of value that you feel from helping companies. Because usually you're going in to fix a problem, help them grow and improve and all that sort of thing. So it's a little bit more satisfying doing it that way rather than just being part of a big company and sort of kind of getting lost in the background.
So how have you dealt with American financial rules, New Zealand financial rules, Australian financial rules? Is there a similarity, or is there a variation, or is it quite easy to pick up and adapt?
Yeah, for the regular financial reporting, it is. Now, tax law changes in every country.
Yep.
And that was the thing that I needed to pick up once I came here, took some courses. And of course, becoming a member of Chartered Accountants here, I had to complete some courses in order to become a member. But just the general accounting is pretty much standard worldwide.
It's good. So Bill and I talk often about tipping points and sliding door moments, and I suppose your tipping point is that, well, I want to celebrate Christmas in a good way, so that forced you to go. It's a good idea. It's good. I love it.
Well, but it's more in terms of, my personal life was important.
Yeah.
And I could see that I would have more control over that if I was on my own versus if you're working for a company.
Yep.
Now, Christine, we troll you through the internet, I came across a mention about a music business. What was that all about?
Okay, so that's my husband's business, Lazy Bones Recordings.
Yeah.
I love the name.
And yeah. So he's had a record label forever. Originally started just working with small independent bands, but has gone on to work with some more notable musicians. But the interesting thing about it was he tapped into music licensing while he was doing all that. That was probably early 2000s, and it sort of happened by accident initially, where somebody just rang him up, said, "Hey, we want to use one of your songs. Can we do?" I think it was a Coca-Cola related product, and so he tapped into music licensing for film, TV, and advertising. That really worked well for a long time. And I think shortly after we moved to Australia, we were able to sell off a portion of the music catalog to Sony BMG.
Wow.
So, so that was really good. So, so I've been exposed to a wide variety of industries.
All right, we'll turn around the circle again. So why the move from Geelong to Tassie?
I think probably during COVID, things were locked down. We thought, and especially because the population was becoming more dense, and we like to be outdoors and have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more buffer between you and your neighbor, sort of thing. And we had visited Tasmania a couple times and had really liked it. And we actually thought we would settle around the Torquay area, but the population boomed so much after COVID. Everybody from Melbourne moved down there. And we thought, you know what, this is getting to be like Southern California, where, you go to the beach, you can't find a parking spot, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why we really started looking at Tasmania. So again, same thing, took a few trips down here.
Well, you know what's next, don't you? And it's full of ice. It's called Antarctica.
No, we're not going to go any further south.
So the other thing, Christine, that struck me when you were talking, when you said you brought clients with you from New Zealand because of the online basis.
Yes.
When did you adapt and do that sort of online CFO type work? Whereabouts in your journey did that sort of take off?
I did a bit when I was still in Hawaii, and that was, still unusual, just because I had some really small clients. And at that point, it wasn't so much on the internet live in the cloud. It was, sharing files into accounting software back and forth. But it really started there. But I love how it's morphed into something that's very acceptable, and especially with the ability to do these video meetings and all that, and share things live, as far as presentations, documents, all of that. It really is a great way to work, especially since most of us are working at our desks at a computer anyhow.
Yes.
It's a great way to work.
Yeah, that's right. I notice I'm signing a lot of forms because I'm consulting to some companies on what you call DocuSign.
Yes.
And you just see how it's going. And now, let's advise the listeners on your range of clients, because you are now officially, in my book, a virtual CFO. Now,
Correct.
Can you tell us a bit about your range of clients?
So I still have clients in the States. One client in particular does wholesale goods to like homewares. I've worked with rental hire, like equipment hire companies, worked with food manufacturers, obviously worked with state agencies, and I've done a little bit of work with some of the state hospitals during their audits this year. Who else? Obviously, music companies. I'm just trying to think others off the top of my head. Some not-for-profits.
If you had to pick one business segment as your only source of income, what do you think that would be?
Oh, if I could cherry pick?
Yes.
I really loved working with real estate development.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is interesting. And,
yeah.
And what's the benefit to a company to have an outsourced CFO? Where do you see the benefit in that?
Well, it gives you a lot more flexibility of the level of experience you can bring in to your company without having to have them full time. Because, it's kind of an expensive endeavor to hire a full-time CFO. And companies that are, small to mid-range or, in the infancy, they just can't afford to do that. But having somebody that's on call when needed, or to have, just a couple days designated per week or per month, it gives them access to that level of experience that they couldn't have if they were required to have somebody in the office every day.
And how does your model work? Do you charge a monthly fee?
It just depends on the job.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I've even done due diligence work for private equity companies and stuff like that. You just charge by the hour. If it's for a discrete task, I'll estimate what the, my number of hours will be and just quote a fee.
Yeah.
Yep.
It just kind of depends on the situation.
And how do you find, do you word of mouth, or do you advertise?
No advertise. I've always liked doing referrals because I like to have a frame of reference about the business. It's important to know that, they're above board, they're viable, they have good heads in management, things like that. Same for me. Yeah.
That's exactly how Mark and I work. Is, we get a lot of inquiries. Oh, can we have a cup of coffee? We want to talk about this, talk about that. But certainly I don't engage with anyone unless there's been preference is referral, and then it has to be, there's a huge element of trust involved.
Correct.
Yep.
Have you walked away from a client because you've gone, whoa, not for me?
Yeah, I have.
Yep.
I have. And that just happens sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's. And how do people find you, Christine? If someone listening to this says, this sounds like a good concept, how do they find you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn, as you found me.
Yep.
But also my website is crowderaccounting.com.
And that's spelled CROWDER.
Yes, and then accounting, ACCOUNTING, but it's just .com.
Okay.
And I have testimonials on there if anybody wants to check it out. And
Excellent. And you're looking for more clients, or are you happy with the number you've got?
I'm always open because, sometimes you take a client to the point where they may need to bring somebody in full time.
Okay. Yep.
If I love a good mess and I love cleaning things up, but then it doesn't always make sense for me to be there all the time.
Yep.
But I don't mind, checking in with them periodically, and training up their staff to keep the day-to-day stuff moving along. I'm always open.
And my final question, Christine, is which mountain do you live on in Tasmania?
Which mountain?
Yeah, you said you wanted to get away from things.
Oh, yeah. Well, so we're on the northeast coast, around St. Helens.
Yes, I know that area. Yes.
Good, nice spot.
Good.
And the only other final question from my end, Christine, is most audit and accountants I find tend to be risk averse. You're totally anti-risk averse because you've taken some big steps to go around the world. So I think that's fantastic, absolutely admirable that you obviously weigh up the pros and cons and then move. Is that how you've done it?
I just have a lot of faith in my husband. But you know what? It's because I'm sure you know a lot of accountants being risk averse. You know, I've been described as a barnacle, and had I not been married to somebody that's more adventurous, I probably would still be in California. But he's always taken me out of my comfort zone, and I would say most of the time I end up liking it more than he does.
Interesting.
Good.
That's interesting.
That's good.
And it's really forced me to, get out of my shell a lot more than I would have otherwise.
And while you're in Tasmania and you're not CFOing, what do you do? What's your interest outside of the work?
Well, we have a little bit more land, so we have very active gardens, and we spend a lot of time at the beach.
Very good.
All right. Yeah. Eating lots of mussels, I hope.
I've learned how to prawn.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, Christine, look, thank you for coming on, and I'm glad that I thought of you, and it's been a while since you and I have actually spoken, but we're delighted to have you here today.
Great story.
Yeah.
Lovely story.
And I look forward to, we'll put this up, Mark, and people listening to this, we will have done this 2 weeks previous.
Yep, that's brilliant, Christine.
No.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. This has been fun.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.